happening across the New Orleans metro. Flash flood warning in effect over the next several hours. This is actually in that considerable flash flood risk right now across the city of New Orleans and including parts of Jefferson Parish, and that it does include Metairie. So let me take a look at this right now. Right now we're seeing those heavy rainfall rates of up to maybe 2 inches per hour. So I just want to kind of move myself so you can see better what we're looking at here. The flash flood warning is that green flashing box right now, and I do want to remind you that there is neutral ground parking allowed until 8 o'clock this evening. Because of the heavy rain, neutral ground parking is allowed until 8 o'clock this evening because of these heavy showers that have not let up over the last half hour, 45 minutes over the city of New Orleans. And you can see how hard the rain is coming down by those dark red colors. We got a lot of lightning packed in with this storm too, and the considerable risk for flash flooding. So do not drive through flooded roadways. If you do have to make your way around the New Orleans metro this afternoon, try to postpone those plans. Take it easy on the roadways. If the rain becomes too heavy and it's too hard for you to drive, pull over if you can do it safely, because we do have really heavy downpours happening across the city of New Orleans right now. The heaviest of the showers happening in the uptown section of New Orleans, back west into Metairie. The good news is this starts to subside relatively quickly. We had really heavy showers over Kenner that have wound down, but it's just really intense right now. But it's continuing to move. It's not completely parked over the city, so there is some movement to it, which will help kind of allow this to taper off. But even so, the flash flood warning will remain in effect through later this afternoon because it'll take time for the waters to subside even after the rain stops. So we do have some very heavy rain across the city of New Orleans now. Flash flood warning in effect over the next several hours. There are some roads already closed. The Carrollton Underpass is closed. Tulane Avenue and South Carrollton Avenue closed. Old Gentilly Road near Paris Road closed. So some usual spots closed because of the heavy rain. Again, neutral ground parking is allowed until 8 o'clock this evening in the city of New Orleans because of the heavy showers. The heaviest rain now coming across near the Tulane and the uptown section of New Orleans. Right now, that's where the most intense rain is happening, even stretching northward towards City Park and the River Bend area. West Bank also seeing some heavy showers and storms through Marrero. So both sides of the river seeing heavy downpours, frequent lightning, and even some brief gusty winds. But it's the heavy showers that's keeping this flash flood warning in effect for the next several hours. So we'll be getting through some wet weather today. And honestly, the wet weather is going to be with us over the next several days. We're kind of getting into this more stormy pattern that we're going to be stuck with. And unfortunately, we could see flash flood warnings tomorrow, this weekend. And of course, we're dealing with one right now. Actually, I just got a report in from the National Weather Service. Public reporting 4 to 6 inches of water over the roadway in Harahan. So Harahan seeing maybe up to 4 to 6 inches of rain as a result of this really strong storm that is dumping a ton of rain across the city. So it is continuing to kind of subside a little bit on the eastern edge of it. So New Orleans east not seeing as intense of the rainfall rates, but the heaviest of the showers still making its way through the New Orleans metro. Also wanted to zoom out a bit because we do have more storms happening across the region. We're not only confined to the metro area. Some heavy storms happening for parts of our river parishes, and on the North Shore, Tangipahoa Parish actually has a severe thunderstorm warning in effect. It's that yellow flashing box because of strong wind gusts up to maybe 50, 55 miles per hour. Not only do they have the wind gusts moving through Hammond and Tangipahoa right along I-55, they got the heavy rain too and the frequent lightning. So it is kind of a messy afternoon. Expect scattered storms across the area that are capable of producing these heavy downpours that could prompt some flash flood warnings. So we have got big flash flood concern across the New Orleans metro now. That's where the warning is in effect. I'll keep the radar here so you can kind of get an idea of where the heaviest of the rain is happening, right in the uptown section of New Orleans and also onto the West Bank. If we look at rainfall rates, it's really intense. Anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain coming down in less than an hour, even more than that. I know we got that report of up to maybe 4 to 6 inches of rain in Harahan. So towards Elmwood, seeing a lot of rain across the city right now and into the New Orleans metro through JP. So this is that considerable flash flood risk for the metro area because of how much rain has fallen. Do not try to drive. If you can postpone your afternoon, maybe lunch plans or something like that, definitely postpone it since the rain is coming down so hard. So there are those rainfall rates, 2 to 4 inches in an hour, even more, up to 4 to 6 inches in an hour for parts of the metro area now. So seriously heavy rain. We've got these really rich tropical downpours, and so it's a lot of moisture within these storms that can just efficiently dump rain and unfortunately cause such a headache when we are out and about and trying to just get through our lives. We have these scattered storms that really produce a lot of rain and sometimes even some strong winds. That's why we have the severe thunderstorm warning for Tangipahoa Parish. So right now I'm going to send it over to Katie Moore with some more information on what's happening on the flooding.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. We're, of course, breaking into your regularly scheduled programming this afternoon because of that flash flood warning that has been issued for Metro New Orleans. We are expecting a lot of rain in a short amount of time. As Alexa just mentioned, we are seeing large accumulation of rainfall in the Harahan area, and then in other areas like South Carrollton and New Orleans, also seeing some problems. This is Streetwise NOLA, which is the agency that tracks flooding as it's happening in real time, and you can see right there are some problem spots that are bubbling up already as we're seeing this flash flood warning play out. It will be in effect today until 4 o'clock this afternoon, so it's going to be something that we're monitoring very closely. We do have Alexa Trishler here. We have Chris Franklin, who's in the studio with us, who's getting things ready as well. So they're keeping a very close eye on the radar and what's happening out there. And we want everyone to know out there that we are keeping a close eye on what's happening on the roadways. We did hear from the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans yesterday that Turbine 4 is back up and running, and that is very good news this afternoon, just in time for this flash flood warning that's in effect and has been issued by the National Weather Service. That turbine should provide enough power to run the drainage pumps, which hopefully will keep any floodwaters that accumulate out of homes and businesses in the New Orleans region. Now, of course, we're talking about rainfall that is falling fast and heavy and hard in parts outside the city proper. We're talking about Jefferson Parish, places like that are also seeing significant accumulations of rainfall at this hour. And Alexa, we were just talking to you about what was happening on the radar. Any idea what we can expect in terms of how long this is going to go?
Yeah, luckily it's not going to last all afternoon. So there is kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. They don't last long. I just want to quickly show you what it looks like on our tower camera. It is shaking off there, sheets of rain coming down over the Crescent City connection. So first and foremost, make sure you don't drive through any flooded roadways. You avoid those big puddles and big ponding on the roads. That our roads can easily accumulate a lot of rain, and these rainfall rates are seriously no joke. I mean, the good news is it is kind of moving. So Kenner seeing no rain now. So this will continue to push off to the east. Still talking heavy rain for parts of Carrollton. Again, uptown New Orleans seeing the heaviest rain through the French Quarter, up through City Park into Gentilly. So that's where the heaviest of the rain is, and on the west bank towards Marrero. But this is moving off to the east. So improving conditions happening in River Ridge. So Harahan River Ridge, they still have this standing water now because of the rain that has already fallen over the last an hour, less than an hour actually. So the rain is subsiding for places west, but there's still going to be that water on the roadways because of how much rain has already fallen. We can take a look at accumulated rainfall to see how much has happened in the last hour. So this is a radar estimated. Doesn't always do a perfect job, but pretty good, showing you anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain has fallen, and we have been getting those reports in Harahan that they've seen already 4 to 6 inches of rain come down. Again, I wanted to remind you the neutral ground parking is allowed for the city of New Orleans. That's in effect until 8 o'clock tonight because of the heavy downpours that are continuing across the area. So let me pop up what's happening currently with our radar. So that was the rainfall rates. Anyway, we talked about this 2 to 4 inches an hour, 4 to 6 inches in an hour. That is some seriously heavy rain. And we know what happens in our area when that rain comes down like that in such a short amount of time. And we're not the only ones in the city of New Orleans dealing with the heavy showers. We've got the North Shore having a strong storm come through Tangipahoa Parish. Now there's a severe thunderstorm warning for Tangipahoa Parish for strong winds up to maybe 50 miles per hour within that. Also some heavy showers and frequent lightning through Hammond on the North Shore. Our river parish is seeing some copious amounts of rain. The only real highlight is, like I've been mentioning, it is moving along. So you can kind of just watch radar and see how it's shifting off to the east. Still talking very intense and heavy rain for the city and the West Bank, but it is getting out of here slowly but surely. It is making its way out and will start to kind of shift off more to the east and subside, but we probably still have a good 10-15 minutes to have to deal with this. Hopefully a little bit less than that for the city of New Orleans, maybe roughly 10 minutes or so with this heavy shower that is making its way off to the east. So if you are going to maybe hit the road, make sure you definitely take it easy on the roadways, even I-10 for the twin span, some heavy rain. It's always just really unsettling when you're out there driving and these really heavy downpours coming in. Your windshield wipers really can't even keep up with it. So if you do happen to unfortunately can't postpone your plans, you have to get out on the roadways, try not to speed, try to take it easy, try not to you'll get there because the rain is really intense. So definitely drive carefully out there with these heavy showers. Make sure you avoid any flooded roadways. But yeah, some heavy showers right now setting up over I-10 and the twin span. Heavy rain, of course, across the New Orleans metro in the city of New Orleans through New Orleans East. Watching that very intense cell parked right over the city, right here in that kind of the uptown into the French Quarter mid-city area. Heaviest of the showers also spanning the river into Marrero on the west bank. That's where the heaviest of the downpours are happening now in the city of New Orleans. But again, this is kind of making its way out of here. At least it's not parking for long periods of time, if that provides any sort of consolation. But otherwise, let's see if we can get any more updates on any other road closures. Not seeing any new road closures, but I want to remind you that Carrollton Underpass is closed. Tulane Avenue at South Carrollton Avenue is closed. Old Gentilly Road at Paris Road is closed at the moment. So that's from Streetwise. Because of the heavy rain, you'll probably encounter these underpasses, the usual spots that flood easily. Even though the Streetwise doesn't say the road is flooded yet, you may have more flooded roads out there on your Thursday afternoon. So you might have to plan alternate routes out there today. So something to keep in mind over the next few minutes. We'll be watching these showers, these heavy showers over the city, but they are starting to subside a bit on the northern end of this cell. So yes, there's still moderate rain for Gentilly and towards City Park, but it's not as intense as on the southern end of this storm right now. So there are areas of this storm that are starting to kind of pulse downward. It just depends on where you're at this moment. So heavy showers for the New Orleans metro. We have a flash flood warning in effect until 4 o'clock. The storm is not going to last until 4 o'clock. It's only going to last for the next maybe 10 minutes or so. And even if and it's not going to last for that long, rather. But still, the flash flood warning is in effect until 4 o'clock because it will take time for the water to recede. So even though the rain stops, you may not be completely in the clear when you are driving around outside. Remember, turn around, don't drown. I know we say it all the time, but it's something to certainly always have in the back of your mind because you can't tell how deep the water is.
Yeah, Alexa, what we're seeing, not to interrupt you, but what we're seeing out there is very consistent with what you're saying about the heaviest of the rainfall out there. We're seeing there is some water in the roadways. South Claiborne and MLK Boulevard reported about 20 minutes ago, so I'm guessing they still have some water on the roads there. Then North Diamond and South Peters Street and areas along St. Claude Avenue also have had issues throughout the afternoon. So we are definitely seeing water ponding on the roadways. The good news is when we're looking at Sewerage and Water Board's dashboard of how many pumps are operational, it appears there's only one area that has a pump down. So that's good news for this storm and for the massive amount of rainfall that we're getting right now. The pumps in New Orleans are largely working and operational, and the Sewerage and Water Board says they have 67.5 megawatts of power currently available to run the pumps. They need 44. So that is great news with that extra turbine back online and providing the lion's share of power for those pumps to run efficiently and effectively. So one other thing, of course, that we always like to keep tabs on is the power situation. You can see there's a significant area near Elysian Fields that's dealing with no power. 4,500 customers last check of how many were without power around that number. So hopefully Entergy will be able to get back out there as this weather subsides. And Alexa did say that this is starting to move out in spots. And you can see on your screen right now, we are out there with our mobile weather center and we are driving around. This is Orleans Avenue this afternoon. The rain is still coming down hard and heavy in that spot. And so if you are out and about this afternoon and you got caught in this, please drive slowly. We've heard over and over again that people have gotten water in their homes and businesses because people are just taking it too fast. You can see here that there is water ponding on the roadway, and look at that. If you can see right by where that banner is, people hitting some significant puddles of rain as it it comes down out there. Now, Mid-City is an area that we've seen have problems with flooding over and over again, and that area did get a lot of rain in a short period of time this afternoon. So hopefully the water is draining and the pumps are able to keep up. But this is something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on. And outside the metro New Orleans area, areas like Slidell are seeing heavy rain, right, Alexa? Also up north,
yes.
Over by Hammond, Tangipahoa Parish, also under a flash flood warning. Is that correct?
They're seeing the heavy rain. They're actually under a severe thunderstorm warning on the North Shore in Tangipahoa Parish. So yeah, we got storms across the entire area. That's the severe thunderstorm warning, rather. The severe thunderstorm warning for Tangipahoa Parish from Amite City down to Hammond. They've got the heavy rain, and it's the strong wind gusts within this storm. That's why the warning is issued for Tangipahoa Parish, because there are wind gusts within this storm, possibly up to 50 miles per hour. So we've got strong winds. Look at all the lightning associated with that storm. That is moving to the east to northeast. So that is going to be moving into western St. Tammany Parish. It's in Tangi now. That'll continue to progress eastward into Covington and Mandeville, into Folsom. So they'll be seeing heavy rain and some gusty winds with this storm. So heavy rain, gusty winds, and frequent lightning across the North Shore at the moment. Also Slidell seeing those showers starting to pop up too, and these are kind of sitting over Slidell and dumping a bit of rain kind of in the Slidell proper and north of Slidell, really focused in Pearl River. So Slidell seeing some showers on the east side of Slidell, but along I-10 in the Twin Span, that is a strong storm right over I-10. So if you are making your way in this direction, you'll be dealing with really blinding rain and frequent lightning. And some of these storms, we know when they get over water spouts, certainly a possibility within these storms as they are over water. So make sure you are driving carefully. And like we've been talking about, we're kind of in this wetter pattern where this might be the case again tomorrow, or maybe this weekend or next week, because we're in this kind of soggy, wet, stormy pattern where every day we can have these storms set up and dump a bunch of rain in a short amount of time. So flash flooding may be, again, an issue tomorrow. It was yesterday, not as bad as it is now. Yesterday's flash flooding was not nearly as bad as it is right now, but this is kind of the story over the next week. So heavy rain still falling across the city of New Orleans. There are some improvements on the west side of the storm, so parts of Metairie starting to see some drying, more so into Kenner and River Ridge and Harahan. They're seeing the break from the rain. They are drying now, but the city of New Orleans still dealing with this kind of heavy downpour that has not let up, especially for the uptown section of New Orleans into Mid-City. A closer look at those downpours here stretching into the West Bank for Algiers, into Marrero. So both sides of the river seeing the heavy shower that has not really subsided yet, but it's slowly making its way out of here. Slowly. It's still dumping intense rainfall rates. So we're going to be watching this over the next several hours. We did want to switch things over to Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin for the latest on what's going on with the rain.
Yeah, thanks, Alexa, and great job with the coverage. So far this afternoon, we have dealt with the heaviest of the rains, primarily over the metro area. I'm just myself getting into work about 15 minutes ago, coming in from JP, and while roads were passable, basically from around Harahan, River Ridge, Elmwood to our studios in the French Quarter, usually the trouble spots where you have the lower areas, the standing water, the ponding water, it was all underwater, those roads, especially the Carrollton overpass. I passed through it this afternoon about a half hour ago, and while it was relatively passable, you really had to take your time, and if you had a lower profile vehicle, it was going to be very close. Now, thankfully, as Alexa alluded to, a lot of those heavier storms are beginning to wane. In fact, I'm going to switch over here and I'm going to show you our camera that we have at on Bourbon Street near Arno's, and notice we're getting some of the heaviest of the rains here in the French Quarter. Doesn't look too intense over Bourbon Street at the moment. Now again, we've had elsewhere just a few blocks away some torrential downpours, but at least there are signs that either the rain is clearing out, as we've seen across northern JP, also in St. Charles Parish, but then also the fact that the intense rains that we have over the city are themselves weakening too. Now, what Alexa had been showing those storms that are just off to our west are also weakening. So coming in from St. Charles and St. John, or St. John and St. James, have been falling apart, or at least weakening as they approach now St. Charles, and if whatever holds together continues into JP. I don't think any of the additional rains that we will see in the next, say, half hour, 45 minutes coming in from the west will necessarily make conditions any worse. I don't think they're going to really amount to much of anything in terms of the accumulations that we have already seen. Alexa also mentioned the severe thunderstorm warning that we did have in effect in southern Tangier Hope Parish has now since expired. The main threat from this, not as much the heavy rainfall, and while it is heavy rain, it was more from the gusty winds and the potential for maybe some damage there. Now, still a little outflow bound. You can kind of see that approaching Folsom. So expect from Folsom to Covington within the next couple of minutes to get some very strong winds to pass through. Also down into Madisonville, Mandeville, as a little outflow boundary is passing quickly to the east, associated with these stronger thunderstorms that are now moving into southern Tangier Hope Parish. You can see that little indication there on reflectivity of the outflow boundary. So you're going to get some gusty winds there kind of initially before the heaviest of the rainfall moves in. And again, while the rain is intense on the north shore, not quite seeing the rainfall rates that we had south of the lake, at least not at the moment, to prompt a flash flood warning for the north shore. That remains in effect for the south shore. And even folks may be saying, well, the rain is done at my house in St. Charles, in JP. Just because of the accumulation that we have already seen, it is going to take some time for all of our roadways to clear out. As I mentioned, I was on the roads about 45 minutes ago, and while most were passable, we were starting to see in those trouble spots the water beginning to rise and gradually becoming more and more impassable. And so I would just hold off for a little while if you can. If you needed to head out anywhere this afternoon, just give yourself a little bit more time before hitting the roadways. Just allow these storms to kind of weaken, the ones over the city, and then also the ones that are moving in from the west, while I don't think they're going to be nearly as intense. And then, as I said, I don't think they're going to really add to the issues that we have over St. Charles, JP, and Orleans. There's still going to be some little problem areas as we continue through the next several hours. You know, it just takes some time for natural drainage and the pumping situation to kind of catch up with the rainfall accumulations that we've already seen. Some of the heaviest appear to be right over more the Tulane area, uptown, Riverbend, toward downtown now. And as I mentioned, here in the French Quarter, we're getting some intense rainfall, a lot of lightning, but at least looking at our camera over Bourbon Street, while the rain is steady, not as intense as it had been a little while ago. So good news, at least in the near term, that the trend has been for a lot of these storms to weaken. You can kind of take a look out of our tower camera. This is another one of our cameras out on the West Bank looking toward just the ominous low clouds. At least, you know, looking at that, always looking at the silver lining, at least it's not so hot outside with the rainfall around and ample moisture. It does help to provide for some decent downpours. And of course, we don't want it all at once. But as we've also been talking about, our rain chances in the coming days are on the increase. So while today kind of widespread, our rain coverage was a little bit more limited, I think our rain coverage is going to be increasing tomorrow and on into the weekend, which does mean we will have a higher chance for some of these downpours that could lead to street flooding. While it doesn't look like it's going to be an overwhelming, widespread flooding event in the coming days, with more rainfall, it certainly looks like this chance will be with us through the weekend and into next week. Katie?
All right, Chris, we are being joined at this hour by Colin Arnold, who is the head of Homeland Security for the city of New Orleans. Mr. Arnold, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thanks so much for being with us. We have been seeing on Streetwise that we're having an issue near Carrollton. Is that all you're seeing so far in terms of this rainfall and any accumulations of significant water on the roads? There's a live picture there that you can see on your screen right now of that underpass.
Yeah, certainly Carrollton's a concern anytime it rains like this, and we've got some other areas around the city, about 12 underpass locations that are marked with flood warning lights that should be going off. You know, please don't drive into those, no matter what the depth of the water is. If you should turn around and not drown, I think is the best advice I can give for that. We expect this to pass within the next hour or so. Obviously, we will have some street flooding issues. I would say for the next hour, if you don't necessarily have to be on the roads, I would advise to stay close to home or to work until this passes. We are seeing some pretty heavy rain rates, particularly uptown, moving in through Central City and up into Mid-City. Potentially up to about 3 inches of rain we'll receive here. And so we want to make sure that people just stay safe.
Yeah, as we're looking out there, people are trying to navigate that flooded underpass right now, and there's a smaller car that doesn't seem to really be able to figure out what to do. I think you just gave them some very good advice, though. If anybody can get word, just turn around if you can, as long as you can be safe and get out of that area. Any other idea, Mr. Arnold, what other problem spots might be out there? Are we seeing any issues in Mid-City? Because I know they were getting hit pretty hard a little while ago.
No, I mean, nothing necessarily right now, but obviously as this continues, when you get rain rates, approaching 5 to 6 inches per hour for any extended period of time, we will start to see some issues, most likely around Galvez and Canal, Bank Street, and then also, like I said, the Canal Street underpass typically will start to collect water. A lot of the same areas, unfortunately, that we kind of see repetitive flooding issues when we get flash flood warnings and flash flood issues like this.
Credit where credit's due. The Storage and Water Board has that turbine back up and running. Does that put us in a better position?
Any additional power that they can produce always puts us in a better situation, if not for today, for whatever is coming towards us in the future. And we obviously know this is a busy hurricane season. I would just let people know that we're in a little bit of a lull right now, but to definitely continue to stay resilient and stay ready and stay weather aware for afternoon thunderstorms like this that may come through, or for the potential for storms that and tropical activity that we may very well see, going into August and September.
We're also seeing some pretty significant power outages with this, about 5,000 customers right now without power, many of them around Elysian Fields in that area. Have you all heard from Entergy at this point about what those outages might look like for the rest of the afternoon?
Yeah, I'm going to check in with them as soon as I get off with you, but I anticipate that they probably have there was a pretty strong wind line in front of this, and I anticipate that, we may be having some power issues, probably not for long term, but maybe through this evening.
NOPD reporting any incidents that they've had to respond to, or the fire department?
No, but they're on the way to Carrollton right now.
Okay.
And they're going to put up an additional layer of barricades out there.
Okay, yeah, we still have cars going through that. We're watching it live right now with our cameras out there.
I see that.
Yeah, so you can see people just trying to navigate it. There's a truck going through right now, but some cars have been smart, turned around in those lower profile vehicles, and as the rain lets up, hopefully that will clear pretty quickly. We're still hearing thunder here in the French Quarter. I'm not sure where you are, but it does sound like it's still coming down pretty good out there.
It is coming down very good, but it seems to be moving. It doesn't seem to be stalling, and I'm not seeing a lot of backbuilding behind it, so I think if we can hold on for 30 to 45 minutes to an hour, we'll be in good shape.
Okay. Colin Arnold, thanks so much for joining us live this afternoon. We appreciate the update.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay. So, Alyssa, we are looking at this underpass. Alyssa Curtis joining us live in our mobile forecast center looking at this flooded underpass. What are you seeing, and what did you see before we were able to take a picture on this live camera?
Hey Katie, yeah, so we are here at the Carrollton underpass, and as you can see, I'm trying to zoom in from our roof camera, but you can tell that there is some flooding under there in both directions. As I'm not sure if you guys can see because the bridge is blocking it a little bit, but on the opposite side from where I am parked right now, it looks like some cars are backed up trying to decide whether or not they want to cross this underpass right now, which is heavily flooded. You can see right here to the right of your screen that there's a car deciding, hey, maybe I shouldn't go under this. Just a few minutes before you guys took the shot, there was a car that actually completely turned around and decided, nope, I'm not doing that. We've seen in the past this has been a problem area. We do know that cars often tend to have some issues when there is some heavy flooding, some heavy rain in this area. So again, we do not advise to drive through, whether it is this underpass or any other area that's flooded. You rather be safe than sorry. You probably heard that. That was a very loud crack of thunder. But again, a lot of people over here deciding, should I drive through that? Should I just turn around or pause for a little bit? Here you see two people taking two completely different approaches right now. One car driving through that flooded underpass and one just deciding to back up and to change directions. Again, you'd rather be safer than sorry. You have a really high chance of getting stuck in this type of flooding. We've seen it before. We see it time and time again. We just want you guys to be safe. So when you see anything like this, when you approach any street that looks like this, just pull over, wait a little bit, or just turn around and take a different route. It can be very dangerous. We've seen cars stall out in situations like this. Here is another car driving through the flooded, and that area actually seems to be, the left side actually seems to be flooded a little worse than the side I'm on right now. He safely made it through, but again, just because some cars are safely making it through doesn't mean you should follow suit and do the same.
Yeah, that is treacherous there. And as we heard very loudly, there's still thunder, lots of lightning, still rain coming down heavily in the area where you are, Alyssa. Talk about any traffic backups that we can see. We can kind of see it underneath that railroad bridge that is part of the overpass right there. Looks like cars are pretty backed up. I would think it would be good advice just to avoid this area altogether if you have to be out and about at this hour.
Correct. When we were driving here from the French Quarter, the traffic wasn't too bad, but I could tell it was starting to ramp up. And of course, now with this flooded underpass here on Carrollton, it seems to be that the cars are traffic is starting to get backed up. Again, this rain, it seems to be maybe on and off, getting heavier, lightening up. It's fluctuating really quickly right now. And again, like Katie, you mentioned, on the other side of the bridge there, it does look like traffic is starting to become just a bit more congested. So if you can avoid this area, I would suggest you do so. If you can avoid driving in this weather, that is probably your best option. This is not the first car right now that we've seen decide to back up and say, hey, I'm not doing it today, I'm not risking it. That is probably your best option.
Yeah, Alyssa, we just heard from Colin Arnold, the head of Homeland Security for the city of New Orleans. He joined us live a moment ago and said they are planning on having either the fire department or police head out to that area and make sure that people are safe, because even people turning around like that is dangerous. So I'm assuming they want to kind of block off traffic until that weather can clear. And, you know, I think that is really the question at this hour, is how long are we going to see this significant and heavy rainfall? So I think we should check in with Alexa Trishler. She's standing by with us to check on the radar and see what's happening out there. So Alexa, what can we expect in terms of the duration of this storm event?
Well, the rain is starting to subside a lot in the city of New Orleans, but the heavy stuff is now shifting into New Orleans East, into Chalmette, and along I-10 and the Twin Span. And before we get into that, I want to talk about some flooding happening across the area. So on Earhart Drive in New Orleans, widespread flooding of 3 to 6 inches being reported on the road on Earhart. There is some flooding happening in Elmwood. I also wanted to go over streetwise to see any road closures. Of course, we've been talking about the Carrollton Underpass is closed. Uloa and Cortez Street closed, Gayoso and Bienville, Claiborne and La Harpe, Tulane and Carrollton Avenue, and Old Gentilly and Paris Road. All of these roads are closed now because of the intense rain and the standing water happening on the roadways. So when we transition back to our radar picture, you can see things are starting to improve for the city. There is still some moderate rain for parts of the city of New Orleans, even into Algiers on the West Bank. But where it was heaviest over uptown, things are starting to really improve, and some light rain now falling. And this is going to be ending very shortly for uptown. Still, though, in the French Quarter area, still seeing some steady showers up through City Park and to UNO. So the heaviest rain now starting to shift off more to the east. So Arabi and Chalmette seeing some steady rain. and again into the onto the west side of the river. And then if we travel along I-10, some really heavy rain and intense rain is happening along I-10 and the Twin Span. And that kind of storm here, you can always kind of something we always talk about within these storms going over water could produce water spouts. So water spouts are certainly possible in addition to the intense rainfall rates that are happening along I-10. So if you can avoid driving from the city to Slidell or from Slidell to New Orleans, either direction, just wait it out because this is some seriously intense rain that's moving into Slidell at the moment. So the heaviest of the rain starting to kind of shift off to the east along I-10 for St. Tammany Parish into Slidell. Some heavy downpours happening for Slidell. Also, I wanted to mention, we were tracking the storms on the North Shore. There's actually a severe thunderstorm warning that's been in effect for St. Tammany Parish because of this storm that's continuing to move eastward. Now it's going through Folsom, moving into Covington, and about to make its way into Mandeville. So this box here is a severe thunderstorm warning because this storm is producing wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. So expect the gusty winds through St. Tammany Parish into southern Washington Parish over the next half hour, 40 minutes or so as the storm continues to make its way eastward. So we've got strong winds and gusty winds. Strong winds and heavy rain. And this is a look at I-10 at mile marker 258. So the heavy downpours happening along I-10. This is the Twin Span right now. So just getting a look at what's happening with the Twin Span. Let me move off camera so you can get a better look. I mean, traffic is still flowing along pretty swiftly. I mean, it looks like no one is too bothered by this rain, but it's certainly a burden having to drive in this rain with those heavy showers. And sometimes it's too much for the windshield wipers to keep up with. So don't be in a rush today. We've got some seriously heavy rain happening, especially along I-10 and the Twin Span now. So now would be the time. Slow it down. Give yourself a few extra minutes on your Thursday afternoon if you are headed to Slidell or if you're coming from Slidell and headed to New Orleans. Some seriously heavy rain stretching from Slidell and downward into the city, into New Orleans east. Fortunately, as we look westward, some strong storms that were setting up over JP, northern JP, have really subsided. So Elmwood, River Ridge, no rain happening now, but there's still standing water that's going to take some time for it to recede. So the River Ridge, Elmwood area is seeing a lot of standing water and big puddles and ponding and flooding on the roads in River Ridge and Elmwood, but the rain has stopped for now. However, we are looking out to the west for more showers. They're not going to be as bad. Could you say that again, Lamar? We're going back to Chris now.
Yeah, thank you, Alexa. And just kind of reiterating everything that you've been saying, we are looking at a lot of that rainfall, at least in the metro area, to subside. It's going to take some time for all of those areas that have already flooded to finally drain and finally see either natural drainage or the pumps to kind of catch up a bit. And thankfully, the rains that we are watching to our west, moving in from the river parish, is not nearly as intense. Also want to focus, as Alexa was doing, on the North Shore. While this isn't as much of a flooding issue, although some downpours can easily lead to some quick street flooding and some of the low-lying areas, a lot of our little creeks north of the lake. This one more associated with strong gusty winds. I was talking about that outflow boundary. You actually see several little outflow boundaries within these storms. One continuing almost into now central and eastern St. Tammany, and then another one from the thunderstorms that developed north of Slidell and around Pearl River. A little outflow boundary kind of initiate off of that, moving already past Tallahassee and up towards Sun. So Sun's about to get some gusty winds from both the south and the west, and sometimes along these outflow boundaries, as you see just around where we've got the little icon for LA 40. You can see some additional thunderstorms kind of pop up from the outflow boundary itself. So expect more heavy rainfall, but probably more than anything, the strong gusty winds north of the lake. Really didn't see, I know driving through it a while ago south of the lake, the winds weren't nearly as much of an issue in the metro area as it was the intense rainfall, which thankfully has dramatically subsided. We still have kind of a moderate heavy rain over parts of now moving toward more New Orleans east and Chalmette getting in on some of those heavier storms. It is beginning to slacken a bit on the West Bank and further still around the Uptown area, Riverbend, and farther in toward downtown. We're starting to finally see that more intense rainfall. You even see just from the amount of lightning within these thunderstorms, that total has dramatically decreased as well. So this cell or complex of storms that we had prompted the flooding and fairly widespread flooding over, and when I say the metro area, I'm also referring to St. Charles Parish, some very intense rainfall accumulation. This is starting to wind down. Now, again, we're not done with the rainfall, unfortunately, but what showers we do have developing into St. Charles Parish, not nearly as intense. And it looks like these, as they kind of fired up over St. Charles, will be moving into JP shortly. So it will add to our total, certainly, but not nearly the rainfall rates of several inches per hour that we have just experienced really over the last hour or two in Metro New Orleans. So the conditions are starting to improve. Again, it's going to take some time for all of those trouble spots to drain, but at least we are beginning to see some improvements. North of the lake, the more pressing issue, while still some very heavy rainfall, more of the gusty winds. There had been a wind gust reported at Goodby of 65 miles an hour. Again, not really looking at a tornadic type event, but strong winds certainly of 60 miles an hour can do some damage. So may see some tree limbs coming down, maybe even some minor roof damage from some of these storms that are rolling across the North Shore at this hour. These will continue to spread pretty quickly through central St. Tammany, and with these little outflow boundaries kind of firing up all over the place, we may see some additional storms kind of firing up within or right along those little boundaries as these cells themselves kind of initiate further development on the North Shore. So more rain is expected, but again, the good news is, at least in terms of the flooding for the South Shore, we will continue to see improving weather. Alexa was mentioning the intense storms over the Twin Span, Highway 11 bridge, not quite Highway 90, but those two are beginning to subside a bit. You just see from the lightning, the amount of lightning right around the start of the Twin Span, that those values have been coming down, and the intensity of the storms over the Twin Span are starting to come down as well. As Alexa mentioned, didn't seem to really stop folks from driving at seemingly full speed. Thankfully, driving into the city a little while ago, a lot of folks were taking their time, at least from JP into Orleans. It looks like kind of free-flowing traffic over the Twin Span at this hour, even with those intense thunderstorms, a lot of lightning, but thankfully no issues, at least it appears, on the Twin Span right now with those heavier storms moving across the bridge. And again, we'll be wrapping up shortly. Elsewhere around the metro area, again, the showers that have been developing out to our west and moving in will be passing across the metro area, but doesn't look like it will have the intensity of the storms earlier. And we'll kind of widen out radar. There is still quite a bit of instability in the area, and with ample moisture in the atmosphere, we're actually at times in the higher percentile for the amount of moisture in the atmosphere based on the time of year. Yes, this is very humid air. It's very typical of mid-late July, but we're also seeing actually higher than normal amounts of moisture. If the atmosphere is able to tap into that moisture, you get these downpours. And as we've said, over the coming days, we're expecting several disturbances to kind of set up where we will have everything in alignment for more rain coverage, which means more of a chance of these type of downpours. Exactly where they set up is impossible to say. It really is kind of a chance of exactly where some of these heavier storms set up. Some over the metro area yesterday, some again over the metro area today. Doesn't necessarily mean it will be like that in the coming days. Just know I would definitely have the rain gear handy, and always pay attention. Download the WWL app for the very latest, and maybe before hitting the roads, just check us out, see if there is any new information weather-wise, kind of on a day-to-day basis, because we are expecting higher rain coverage through the weekend and into next week. Katie?
Yeah, Chris, it looks like the area near Carrollton is still inundated with water. We saw heavy rain moving through that area this afternoon. And Alyssa Curtis is in the Mobile Forecast Center for us, and she's been keeping an eye on it. We heard from Colin Arnold that they may be sending some emergency workers out there to kind of get things under control. Alyssa, how are things out there now?
You can see on both sides of your screen right now, cars are just deciding to drive through this flooded underpass. Again, we do not suggest you do this Thankfully, so far, it seems like every single car has luckily made it through, but you do not want to take your chances in this. I've seen many cars get stuck, whether it is this underpass in the past or other frequent problem areas. Earlier when you checked in, there was some traffic backed up, but it seems like much of that traffic at that moment had turned around and decided to leave. And now the traffic that is coming through they're taking their chances, as you can see, especially coming off of the highway there, and some cars are slowly inching through. A few cars I've seen in the past few minutes are just barreling through this water. You don't want to do this. Again, we would rather you be safe than sorry. We do not want your car to get stuck. If you can tell, I'm going to try and zoom in. You can see right here there is a measurement, and it shows that the water is about a foot deep right now, and the rain isn't as heavy as it was when you last checked in. It seems like it has since slowed down, but again, it's been fluctuating. It's been very unpredictable, so I would not be surprised if that increased and that water rose soon again.
Yeah, it does look like it is a tenuous situation, at least right now. Hopefully that rain slacking up a little bit has allowed the pumps to catch up. The different areas of the city are controlled by a different number of drainage pumps, and the water has to flow to them in order to get out, and sometimes they get a little overwhelmed if the rain comes down fast and hard like it did this afternoon. We heard Alexa talking about the amount of water that was coming down, and we're talking inches of rain in a very, very short period of time. So when that happens, and it happens over these spots that are known to flood, we tend to see scenes like this. Now you can see a truck right there moving through with its lights on. Any idea, is that a construction truck or tow truck, it looks like?
Yeah, it looks to be a tow truck there. I wouldn't be surprised if this car that they're pulling got stuck somewhere in this rain. It's not an unfamiliar sight to see. Again, you can see that measurement, that ruler there at the underpass shows about a foot of water at this underpass. Here you can see some cars just deciding to take their chances and barrel through. Again, it seems like the traffic has let up. I'm not sure if that's because a lot of people are avoiding the area, or if it's because people are just deciding to take their chances and drive through this. Again, not the best decision, not something I would advise, because we don't want you to get stuck in this water. Hopefully, again, like Katie was mentioning, it can let up and the pumps will then drain that water, but we're not sure when that will be right now. So again, it's better just to avoid the area and stay safe if you can. Avoid the area. Thankfully, again, the rain seems to be letting up, but it's been very up and down, and we're not sure exactly if it's completely going to let up just yet. So this water could rise even more, and again, we just don't want you guys to get stuck. We want you to be safe, so please avoid the area if you can. Take an alternate route, but if you come up on some flooding like this, turn around or just pull over and wait a few minutes if you can. It seems like this person right here to the right of the screen is working on deciding whether or not they want to take their chances or not. It looks like they might be turning around, while this pickup truck here is saying, never mind, move out of my way. I'm gonna take my chances here.
Yeah, it's a gamble for sure. It certainly is. And, I think the question is it one that you want to take? You want to risk your car? You want to risk getting stuck in it? And during heavy rainfall, it is just so much smarter to turn around instead of even trying it. Now, we did see a lot of people, it looks like from your shot, Alyssa, deciding to either go up onto Airline right there or 2-lane instead of going down through this underpass, headed down toward Uptown. So we know Uptown got some of the largest amount of rainfall this afternoon, and so we're keeping a close eye on that. because they have gotten so much rainfall. And so when you see trucks and stuff like that moving through it, another coming very slowly, it does look as though the water's going down just a little bit. So I think it's just going to take time for those pumps to catch up. Don't you, Alyssa?
To the right of your screen, in the middle of the bridge and on the neutral ground, they have that measurement system up, and it seems to be that marker has not moved. It hasn't gone up. Thankfully, we don't want to see that water rise even more past that 1 foot mark. It does seem like it might be slowly coming down. The good thing is, again, it doesn't seem like it's increasing, and that's what we at least want to see. If it's not draining just yet, we don't want it to get even more water. So it looks here as if some of these cars, there's a line kind of forming for all these cars to come through the overpass, the underpass, excuse me. But again, if you can just avoid the area, I think that would be best. Wait it out. Again, we heard Katie earlier speak about the pumps, and hopefully they can drain this water as soon as possible. But the slowing down of the rain does seem to be helping. On the left side of your screen here, you're seeing more and more people take their chances. I don't think it's a risk that you would want to take. Meanwhile, the cars here on the right side of the screen are kind of, let me zoom out, excuse me, deciding, you know what, let me wait, or let me pull over here. So a lot of different approaches going on right here over on Carrollton. Again, I can't stress it enough. We would rather you be safe. You know, we've seen water rescues in certain situations in the past when there's flooding like this. We do not want to see that situation happen today. So please just be cautious of where you're driving, the areas you're in, and just be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the key, and that is why we are even on the air right now, is to let people know what is safe out there and what is not. As we get word from elected officials, as we get word from emergency responders about what's happening out on the ground, so we can let you know what that is and be safe. So, Alyssa, you know, it looks like hopefully that area is going to start to drain soon, but people are taking a risk. They're risking it. Another thing that we want to talk about real quick, even as we continue to take a live look at that picture, is power outages. Now, there are about 5,000 people, customers without power in the Metro New Orleans area. At least that was last check. Many of those around Elysian Fields. And we are hearing from Entergy that there may have been some lightning strikes involved in those power outages. That is very likely why we're seeing so many at this point. So, Alyssa, thanks for joining us. Another area that we heard from Alexa was getting inundated with rain is Elmwood and the Harahan area. Paul Murphy joining us live out there. Paul, this is another area that you and I know both floods on the regular. How are things looking?
You are absolutely right. This area on Clearview in Elmwood is a chronic area where there have been flooding in the past. You can see here on Clearview, right across from New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood, across from Elmwood Shopping Center. You do have quite a bit of water on the road surface here. Vehicles seem to be getting through, although you don't want to come this way if you can help it. There was quite a backup on the Elmwood Earhart Expressway as we were trying to get to this location. It's down to one lane of traffic, so if you can avoid driving in this area for at least a little bit, that would be advisable. But the good news is, at least in this area, while we see some clouds in the distance and it could start raining again at any time, right now it seems to have subsided a bit. And if you look here along the grass, you can see where the water was at one time. That would be certainly not passable. It is passable now, as you can see. As you head towards Mounds and the next intersection, Jefferson, you're going to have quite a bit of water on the road here. And we did see, as we passed through Elmwood Shopping Center, some of the stores, the storefronts themselves had water in front. I didn't see any water getting into any of the stores, however, but they had security from the shopping center blocking off that road that goes in front of all the stores. So a lot of people waiting for the rain to stop to get to their cars. And there was quite a bit of cars going down Citrus as well to avoid this traffic right here. We're told that there was also some flooding out near Jefferson and Hickory, that area of Harahan, and then a few other spots in Harahan. We're told that this area did get multiple inches of rain in a very short period of time, and this is what happens until the pumps here out in Jefferson Parish can catch up with the rainfall. And it does look like the water is starting to recede, and hopefully the rain will hold up, so this mess will be out of here in time for rush hour traffic. But again, here in this part of Jefferson Parish, Clearview Parkway in front of the Elmwood Shopping Center, you definitely don't want to come here if you can avoid it. Katie?
Yeah, Paul, I think Alexa told us that there were about 4 inches of rain that fell. Is that accurate? Yeah, she's giving me the head nod here in the studio. 4 inches of rain falling in that area in a very short period of time. I know some of the businesses out there even have sandbags kind of near their storefronts sometimes because people do tend to drive quickly through that parking lot, and I'm guessing that's why they have that road blocked off in front of the stores so that people don't drive on it and then push water that otherwise wouldn't be in the stores into the actual stores. So there's a lot of personal responsibility in this. If you're out driving around and you are trying to get from point A to point B, make sure that you are driving slowly so that you're not pushing water and causing some additional problems.
Look at these guys right here.
Yeah.
You see this pickup truck? Creating a wake. This is what you don't want to do. You don't want to be like that guy right there. You don't want to be that guy because you could conceivably be pushing water into cars, businesses, and I believe there are laws here in Jefferson Parish about driving down flooded streets, so you could also get ticketed. So you don't want to be that guy that we just saw.
No, definitely not. Alexa saying that it was anywhere between 4 to 6 inches of rain that fell in about an hour in that area. So it's understandable why we're seeing so much water out there, Paul. It's great to have your perspective on it too, because I know you've covered several floods that have happened over the years in that spot. So, you know, this is a chronically flooded area, but it's still a mess for people out there. Anything else you can tell us about the Harahan and surrounding areas? Were you guys able to see any of that when you were on your way in?
Well, it took us a while to get off the Earhart Expressway, so we haven't really traveled around, but Lily Cummings, who's been following this from her desk for us, did make some posts that there was flooding in certain areas of Harahan, including Jefferson Highway, some spots of Jefferson Highway near Hickory in Harahan. So you're going to want to avoid that for the next hour or so. But it does look like, even since we've been on the air, Katie, that the water is starting to recede and the pumps are starting to catch up with the rainfall.
Okay,
and that certainly, hopefully this will be gone here in time for rush hour.
Yeah, that is great news. Fingers crossed that that happens. Paul, thanks for that report. We're going to check back in with you in a little bit. We do want to go back out to Carrollton and the underpass there where Alyssa Curtis has been reporting for us this afternoon in our mobile forecast center. You know, that area doesn't appear to be going down. It's our understanding that some of the pumps may be out that handle that flooding underneath underpasses. We know that drainage pumps handle most of the city, but those underpasses do have special pumps assigned to them. Alyssa, what can you tell us about what's happening out there now?
Yeah, Katie, I just got word that according to Sewerage and Water Board, Old Carrollton Underpass Station has 2 of the 3 pumps out of service. So that means, again, only 1 of the pumps is in service right now. 2 of the pumps are out of service. It says a temporary pump has been deployed over here. So again, that explains a little bit more of the situation that we have, the flooding situation that we have. I also did just see about 2 minutes ago, some city employees come and block off the street and put up some barricades near South Carrollton and Tulane. So we are getting some more information that just explains a little bit more just about why we're seeing the flooding here. It does seem, since the last time, Katie, I know we talked about how It seems like the water is slowly going down. I would say that seems to be true right now. You can see that marker on the right side of your screen. It looks to have dropped just a tiny little bit. The good news is it doesn't seem like more water is being added and there's more flooding, so that's the good news. Again, according to Sewerage and Water Board, some of the pumps are out. 2 out of 3 of the pumps in this area are out. So only 1 pump is working to drain this water right now. That's going to explain why we're seeing so much of this flooding. The cars have not stopped since the last time we spoke a few minutes ago. All these cars, as you can see, as you just saw, are just driving through this water. Again, just don't take that chance, especially when now that we're getting more information that some of the pumps aren't working. It might take a little bit longer now to drain the water. So just be careful. I know they have blocked off part of the street, so hopefully that will decrease the amount of traffic we're seeing in this area.
Yeah, thank you for that, Alyssa. You know, those underpass pumps are much smaller than the regular drainage pumps that we have throughout the city, but if we have 2 out of 3 of them down, then that's diminished capacity and it's going to take a little bit longer for them to drain. Now, we want to go back over to Alexa, who is standing by for the latest on the forecast. And, you know, we got 4 to 6 inches of rain in Harahan. That is a crazy amount of rainfall in a short time.
Yeah, we got seriously a lot of rain. So right now, luckily, good news is the rain has all but subsided except for just a few little showers and storms, especially on the West Bank. So River Ridge is dry now. You may see some passing showers, but they're nothing like what we've seen. So yes, we've had the intense rain so far today, but that has come to an end. You may see a few more scattered showers. It's not going to be that bad. You'll just see maybe a quick burst of some moderate or light showers in the New Orleans metro over the next hour, but the heavy stuff has really wrapped up across the South Shore and the New Orleans metro. So yes, we'll still have the standing water across the metro and in JP and River Ridge and Harahan, but the rain has really ended. You may see just, again, a couple little scattered showers, and that is it. Some heavier showers on the West Bank, but that is also looking like it is weakening. Let's send it over now to Chris.
Yeah, and just taking a look at radar trends, it's been positive. We just want to update that, though. We're still watching that severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect. Oh, I jumped my, that's actually looking at some heavy rainfall on the West Bank, but also want to show the heavy rain that is still on the North Shore. This isn't as much of a flooding concern, although some localized flooding possible, but more of an issue with the strong gusty winds, those outflow boundaries we had been talking about. It is helping to kind of allow these storms to continue propagating toward the east and fairly intense. So we will be watching these, although not too much longer will it be moving out of our viewing area once those storms kind of get past Poplarville and Pearl River County. But Bogalusa, Poplarville, north of Picayune, you're under a new severe thunderstorm warning. That will stay in effect for probably about half hour or more, just depending upon the timing of these storms rolling through, which have been fairly quickly. So more of a severe thunderstorm threat from winds north of the lake. The issue, the flooding, has been more South Shore, but again, that has been a weakening trend. Katie.
All right, Chris. Now this afternoon, as we are going to begin to wrap up our coverage at this time, we want to let everyone know out there we are aware of some more power outages. Thousands of customers still without power in Orleans Parish around the Elysian Fields area. And we're hearing those may have been caused by a large number of lightning strikes. Also on the North Shore, Cleco's reporting about 700 customers without power. Those, of course, in the Covington area where Chris mentioned those straight line winds. So those are 2 areas that are still feeling the effects of this stormy weather this afternoon. And we always need you to be our eyes and ears out there. If you're taking any videos or pictures when it's safe to do so, we would love to see those. You can send those through our mobile app. And we will, of course, have the latest for you as this weather continues to develop. We will break in right here on Channel 4. And, of course, see you again for the WWL Louisiana News at 5.